episode of Off the Clock with Mo, and I pretty much don't think I need to even introduce this guy anymore, other than y'all should know who he is. This is the infamous Doodle Brown, Curtis Brown, whatever Brown you want to use. This is who this is, and I think this is gonna this podcast is gonna maybe become a little touchy. You know what I'm saying? But I believe that we had a the mindset not to take anything personal, and let it affect who we are. Other than even though that this conversations like this, when you start talking about religion and you start talking about politics, it's a touchy subject, and them two subjects do end friendships and relationships and things like that. If you don't have the mind capacity to be able to talk about it, deal with it, and move on from it. But I think that's what we have here. I think we had a mind frame to talk about it, the mind frame not to take it personal, and also the mind frame, to move, move on from it, because we was talking earlier, about this country being a Christian country, you know, but in the aspect when you look in the almanac, this country doesn't have a particular religion and it doesn't have a particular language. It's no particular language and there's no particular religion.
Right. So, and from my vantage point, it's not nothing nobody, I necessarily heard anybody articulate to this degree, even though I'm privy to a lot of different information, just like anybody else, to some of the same information some of the people might draw some of the similar conclusions to. But when we look at Puritans, Pilgrims, anything that falls under the Protestant umbrella, which are all faiths pretty much that are in America, fall under the Protestant religion. Catholicism, Catholicism is one, Protestant is separating from Catholicism. So we have all these different religious entities, but they all pretty much the same. They still fall under the Protestant umbrella, Christianity. So the founding fathers, from my understanding, when they come here, they were all pilgrims, they were all under the Christian belief system.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we understanding that as a person thinks, that's how they operate. So in the forming of this country, if you have Christians, that's why we weren't in favor of homosexuality. They weren't in favor of a lot of things that came from their religious belief system, which was Christianity. And their belief system in Christianity, because God gives you free will.
Mm-hmm.
So in them understanding that their structure in America was to give everybody the free will. But it came from a Christian belief system. You can't say that it wasn't when Thomas Jefferson, after he penned his letters to the Baptist Church, I forget what the name of it, but Danbury, that he goes to, then the state capitol, to church service, where the church service was held in the state capitol, and the lectern then turns into a pulpit. This is all documented. So to say that these founding fathers were not Christian in their belief system, and that was not therefore represented in the forming of our Constitution, our country, is a gross misrepresentation of what this country is.
But the thing about it is that these same people that came up with this shit also came up with the Constitution for what the Constitution is for. Now the Constitution says your First Amendment right is freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and freedom of press. So when it says freedom of religion, that means I am free to practice whatever religion I want to practice, because before I came across the pond, I was forced to practice this religion. And that's why in the almanac, there's two things in the almanac that America has no to: religion and speech. There is no, this country has strictly Christianity. You're allowed to practice whatever religion you want to practice.
You sure?
I'm sure.
I'm about to show you a representation where that's not true in a minute.
Because that's what they found. That's what it was supposed to be founded on because of the wording in the Constitution. The first 10 commandments, the first 10, the first 10 constitutional rights is like damn near like the first 10 commandments. Granted, it came from Christianity.
That's what I'm saying.
But it says in theirs, freedom of religion, not freedom of Christianity, not freedom of Jewish.
So let me propose this to you under that precept. So if here in America, we have complete freedom of religion without control or dictatorship from the government, and that this is not a Christian-based system here in America, why is polygamy illegal? Why is sex with minors illegal when other faiths and religions that are here practice those things, but they can't come here to America and do those things because the religious belief system in America is a Christian belief system?
Because there is also, just like anywhere you go in the world, what you allow in your house, I'm not going to allow in my house. What we allow outside, what's allowed outside is what's allowed outside. So now, no, you can't necessarily, we have rules and laws and things like that that says that you have to be between this age and that age to deal with somebody like this. You can't be 33 years old messing with a 15-year-old.
But whose system is that, though?
It's a law.
No, but
that's not. It's not necessarily a belief system. It's a moral system that a 32-year-old don't mess with a 15. And if you do, you're going to be convicted of a crime.
But where does that moral construct come from when we have other religions that don't have that moral construct? That moral construct comes from a Christian background. So that's what I'm saying. So because the moral construct is based off a Christian background, so therefore the system is a Christian system. This is just indicative of every. America is a Christian-based country.
It may be a Christian-based country, but you have the freedom of your religion, based upon the rules and the regulations. It's like having a job.
Right.
That's shit. Now you can smoke your marijuana all you want to outside, but bring your ass in my job, inside my house, in my job, and smoke this marijuana and think that, oh yeah, they did make it legal, didn't they, in the state? Yeah, go ahead and smoke this weed in my place of business. Oh yeah, drinking alcohol is legal. So yeah, go ahead and get drunk while you in my house. Oh yeah, sex is legal between a man and a woman, between a wife and a husband. Well yeah, but my fact is y'all married at my workplace. Go ahead, I'm gonna set aside some place where y'all have sex at. It's rules and regulations.
Right.
It's policies.
Right. So this is what I'm getting to. So where did those rules and regulations find their foundation and their beginnings, and whose moral construct does it align with? It aligns with a Christian-based fundamental ideology. So in knowing that, that's what the rules are implemented for, that are when they do supersede religious preference, when they do supersede personal freedoms, is because the ideology is based off of this is what God says is right, and we're basing our fundamental belief system off of that. So in order to come to this country, you have to understand that this is just like if you go to the Middle East, you know it's a Muslim-based country. If you go to Italy, you know that it's a Catholic-based country. If you go to all these places, you know that the fundamental building blocks of that system are these religious belief systems. And that's in America. Now, because it's starting to change, because of the freedom that is given under the intent of the law, to a degree that is written so ambiguously that it's open to interpretation, is that now people are coming in and they're putting their religion and superseding it. And when
in my house, yeah, of course. I mean, shit. My Muhammad Ali did it. Muhammad Ali did it with not going to war. Yeah, shit is my religious belief. I'm not going over there killing these damn people is against my religious belief. Yeah, now, when they fought it, were they right for fighting it? Well, you can fight any damn thing you want to fight. Was he wrong for not wanting to go over there, morally or immorally? Well, it depends on who you ask.
Right.
Depending on who you ask. No, he wasn't wrong. Yeah, he was wrong. You know what I'm saying? So that's the reason why. That's one of the reasons why they have state and religion separate. And you do gotta follow. No matter what religion you are, we gotta follow these rules. I may be a polygamist, but shit, I gotta follow this rule of not. I can't be. I can have as many girlfriends as I want, as many boyfriends as I want, but I can't have as many wives or husbands as I want. I can have one, but shit, you do your audit and see I'm married to 5 different people. I'm gonna get a knock at the door.
So answer me this then, and just off the statement you made. So then, therefore, how is state and religion separated in the context of people are trying to use it? If then we know that the state can tell you that you cannot do this, and it's part of your religion. So you can't come into our country that practices this religion and do that, but it's a separate of church and state. So we know that the intent of the wording, and there's no wording that says separate the church and state. We know that the intent of what they were writing was so that they weren't persecuted, so that you were free to come here, not that you were going to change our state, our country religion, but that we weren't going to persecute you for practicing yours. That is the only intent of the whole of
because
that.
Because I have rules here too. Like my rules in my house ain't the same rules in your house.
That's what we getting to.
My rules is different in my house than your house. It don't mean it's based off of necessarily my religion per se, but it can be based off what it is that I do or don't accept. And you in my house now. When I go to your house over in the Middle East, if I'm not married to my girlfriend, I know damn well we can't get no hotel together. I can't say that and then say, hey, you a diplomatic country now. You say I can. You say I can.
But this
I'm
what you said.
I'm diplomatic.
This is what I get from it though.
But this is my house. These are my rules.
So right, and that's
so I'm not stopping you from doing your prayers. I'm not stopping you from building your buildings or institutes or whatever religion that may be. But what can't happen is what I don't accept in my house.
So I agree with that, and that's exactly what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is this is America's house. American is a Christian country, and no another religion does not come in and supersede or dictate.
Is it or is Catholic?
No. See, this is what you have to understand. So we go.
Is it Christian or is it Catholic based?
Now let me tell you.
Because we got a lot of cardinals in this country that's been fucking little kids and been shuffled around.
So we have to understand and have understanding of religion. So Catholicism, you know what I'm saying? I forget the technical term of it, but it means everything in totality, basically. So we're just one universal religion, Catholicism. So after the death of Christ, Catholicism through whatever entity, that's a whole other conversation, but just in the layman's format, Catholicism was the upcoming and under Rome, they were the new religion, you know, because Christianity was still a new religion. So Catholicism started, but Catholicism, just like any other entity of power, is capable of corruption and that's everybody. Everybody has some kind of corruption. Everybody needs to get off their high horse. So you had great reformers. So even though the Christian umbrella incorporates Catholicism, but what we really practice in America I like to think to the greater degree is they're Protestants. And it's not. Catholics and Protestants are two different things. Protestants came because Protestant means to protest. So you had great reformers in the church who protested Catholicism. Martin Luther, when he nailed his thesis to the door, he was saying that this is wrong with Catholicism. Y'all making God's house a church. You're doing this. You're not supposed to go to church on this day. So they separated from the Catholic Church. That's a fracture that deals with America too, and different things that we don't understand because we don't study these things. So this country really falls under a Protestant Catholic umbrella. When you go to Italy, that's just under a basic Catholic umbrella. Anybody who says Catholic,
what happened with Christian?
Christian is the total. They say they're all Christian because Christian is the belief in Christ accept him as your savior.
Mhm.
So that's Christianity, but Catholicism and Protestant are two different things. So they're two different ideologies and belief systems. But people always
So which one supersede? Is it Christian or is it Catholic? Which one superseding everything then?
So, from my understanding, based off the Protestant Reformation, is that Catholicism was too high on their horse. And if you read their information from their meetings, you'll see that they think that they're God on earth and they have the right to speak for God, change God's laws. This is not just what I say. This is what they say. You know, it's not what I'm saying. They say this is what they say. So they think, and they actually are. If I had to be honest, the greatest power in the world is the Catholic Church. Now, whether I agree with the Catholic Church is a totally different conversation. But I do know that the Catholic Church is the most powerful entity on the face of the earth.
Do you agree with the Catholic Church?
No, I don't agree with the
Do you
Catholic
agree
Church.
do you agree with the Christian Church?
No.
Well, who you agree with?
Well, I'm a Jew.
Okay, what the hell that mean? What the hell that mean? I'm a Jew. I don't agree with Judaism. What the hell does that mean? I mean, I know I ain't Jewish. They ain't pay for my house.
So
they ain't gave me no money.
It's a hell of a conversation.
I don't live in a community full of them. They don't want me in their community.
It depends, and it's a religious conversation and it's a physical, earthly conversation. Because you can be a bloodline Jew, which, you know, there's a great degree of people who are bloodline Jews. And then if you go from a Christian theological standpoint on what it is to be a Jew, when you study the New Testament, you understand that under religious context, what I'm speaking is in a religious context, you understand that to be a Jew, that it's a heart condition, and it's a condition to have the love of Christ in your heart and to follow God's laws, and then you become a spiritual Jew, but you're grafted into the body of God as a Jew with the same inheritance as a bloodline Jew would have. That's part of what comes with the New Testament Christianity. But there's perversions, from my studies and understand, there's perversions in all religions, and that's in earth, because it has to be a yin and a yang. That you cannot exercise free will when you don't have a choice.
And isn't that the reason? I'm glad you said because of free choice. Isn't that the reason why the forefathers and they're not necessarily they're not my forefathers, right, but the forefathers that came over here and came up with this new set of rules for the newfound country that was already discovered,
right,
and said that you have the freedom of religion, you have the freedom of speech, you have the freedom of press, you have the freedom to bear arms, you have all these first 10 constitutional rights that's a contract between you and the government. Mm-hmm. And they did that because what they was going through in their country, mm-hmm, that they didn't want to go through in this country.
But who were they and what were they representing in their country?
They was being represented.
They was Christians, right? They were all Christians, right?
I believe they was Christians.
All right.
Because they was dealing with kings and queens of that country. That's the reason why. That's the reason why you got, the at the time it was Queen Elizabeth, but that whole royal family that has control over in Great Britain and in Canada, mm-hmm, and in other countries just as well. Mm-hmm. That they branched out and made them their way of life, mm-hmm, which they wanted to get away from. Mm-hmm. They came over here and made these new laws. Mm-hmm. You have the freedom of speech, the freedom of religion, the freedom, mm-hmm, of this, the freedom of that. You don't have a dictated, mm-hmm, language. Mm-hmm. But what they didn't expect in the process of this happening was that you're going to have all these other religions coming over here practicing this shit. But you can't do anything about that.
Right, you can't do nothing about it.
You can't do anything about them practicing their religion, right, but But I be damned if you gonna walk outside here with 4 and 5 goddamn little ass kids and say y'all married. You know what I'm saying? I mean, when I say little kids, I mean like teenagers. I mean, because let's be fair. Let's be clear. At one point in America, it was a practice that women could be married at 14 and 15 years old.
I know, yeah.
They was married. So when you see some people, grandparents that was married for 80 years, it ain't because shit. They just they got married at such a late age.
They got 1,200 years.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It was like that to a point, and they said, you know what, we can't do this. So the laws did change. The laws came and changed, and which was like, all right, well, my religion tells me I'm allowed to do this. My religion tells me I'm allowed to do that. You know what? To cut all this shit out, religion and state is separated. Go ahead and break a state law, and you're gonna violate it. You're gonna be in violation of the state. Go ahead and break a government law. You're gonna be in violation of that. But now, what you do behind closed doors, and I can't prove it, and I can't see it, and you don't show it, I don't know.
Don't ask, don't tell.
Basically, don't ask, don't tell.
What happened to that law?
Shit, it went out. It went out the window.
All right.
When Clinton got in office, and he allowed people to tell them in the military, well, yeah, I am gay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do like, you know, the opposite, the same sex and things like that.
So this is my understanding of it, and why I am in the belief that it is a Christian-based society. So anybody, in my estimation, who comes to know God and is a religious person and believes in God's giving of us a free will has to make a free society to a degree, because God let us do what he wants to, but he still runs shit. And it's his world. Yeah. You know, so it's his governmental system, because God has his own governmental system. So, but he still gives us free will. He say, thou shalt not kill, but he'll allow us to go out and kill. Same thing America did in the form of their constitution, in the structure of what God did, because they were religious people. So they said that God doesn't make me do anything, but he gives me freedom of will but he says that thou shalt not do this. So they based their structure off of their understanding of God and the way he operates things. But we in our finite minds don't understand that in the process of having free will is sin. So when you give people the opportunity to have free will, people are going to sin. It happens in God's government. It happens in our government. So in us allowing in the same, but we have to have that freedom of choice to be it's our inalienable right. It's our God-given right to have a right to freedom. So anybody who believes in Christ, in Jesus, has to, in their construct, implement that, the ability to have freedom. But that does not mean that they're promoting it, and it does not mean that they're negating that their fundamental belief system. All they're saying is that I have to allow this to happen, or there is no freedom. There's no, you have the right. If you want to fuck up your life, you have that right. I mean, is it good for you? No. You know what? I can tell you that you can't come here and do that. And if you want to sneak in your house and you want to do that, cool. But what you're not going to do is come and tell me that and put it in everybody's face, because that's your religion. But you're coming to my country and telling that my people that that's cool, and you're putting it in their face. If that's what you want to do, you have to do that in private, especially if you're going to tell Christians that you don't want them representing themselves in their country openly, then you have to do it that way, in my estimation.
But I think that's the part that they have with separating church and state, because you can do you allowed to do whatever you so-called want to do in your religion, but we do have rules here just as well that is biased, that's supposed to be biased to whomever. That's the reason why any course you go into, anywhere you go where there's a scale, there's a woman holding that scale with a blindfold on.
Blind justice.
Yeah, she got a blindfold on because it's supposed to, and I emphasize, it's supposed to represent non-bias. Now, do people corrupt that and make it biased? Yes, people corrupt it and it makes it biased. They corrupt it to a point to where, yeah, she is peeking from behind the blindfold. I am looking to see who this is, that's doing this, that, and the third. But the principle behind it is, I don't care what religion you are. I don't care what it is, who you are. If you break this, I'm not looking at you as being that person. I'm not looking at you as being that person. I'm basing all this off of what you did, compared to what you are allowed to do and not allowed to
Off
do.
the law, right?
Yes. And if I come into this country and I speak whatever language, Spanish, whatever the 100 languages in Africa, I come in there and then you tell me speak the American language. Well, I'm gonna open this book up and show you the almanac. You don't have no Pacific language, so don't tell me, to speak the American language, because unlike all the other countries that's out there that you spoke of that came from, that's where it came from, and they come over here. Everybody comes over here. That makes it a melting pot. That's why there isn't any Pacific language. That's why there isn't any Pacific religion. Now, if the most of the country just so happens to be mostly Christian, well, guess who's going to be in position to make these rules and make these laws?
That's the point that I'm getting to, because I agree with most of what you're saying, but this is what I'm getting to, Mo. So this is what we're saying. So this is what history says. This is what the facts of the matter are, based off of what you're saying. So when they came and stole this country, which they did,
yes,
when they came and stole this country, wasn't no Muslims, it was all Christians. So everything they wrote for this country was wrote from a Christian standpoint. Wasn't wrote from no Muslim, wasn't wrote from none of what nobody trying to say right now. When those people came here, the people who framed that were Christians, and the ideology of this country was based from a Christian vantage point. That's all I'm saying.
No, I know exactly what you're saying, but they also removed a lot of that Christian vanity as well. Because if that's the case, hey, you know what? Because, hey, you practicing this, you're a witch. Because you practicing that, you're a devil.
Right.
Because you're practicing overseas, which when they got over here, the way they framed it, they say practice freedom of religion, because I don't want to die from practicing a religion that my country don't believe in.
Right.
So now I come over here and make these rules and say, practice whatever religion you want to practice. But now when you get the Muslim that come over here, we America, we ain't Muslim. But this say right here, no religion. I'm from Mexico. I speak Spanish, speak English. In the book right here, it says no native language. So I am speaking American. Because it's a melting pot on me.
I can understand that.
I'm me.
I can dig that when we keep it in the context of language and different aspects, but I don't really think that's applicable to religion, because there's nothing to do, even though we say freedom of speech, we can throw that and say freedom of speech, but we're not saying that. It's nothing dictating. If you come here to this country and you speak Spanish, the government not gonna force you to speak English. You might be hindered because you can't speak English.
Why you ain't gonna force you?
Let me finish. The government's not going to force you because, like you said, it is a melting pot. But that has nothing to do with the fundamental belief system of right and wrong and religion. They don't go hand in hand. They could be similar, or you could apply them to like they're similar, but they're really not, because they teach Spanish classes in school. They teach all foreign languages in school.
You speak English too.
No, listen to what I'm saying. I'm just applying what I'm just.
Mm-hmm.
So they do all that in school, right? But they fighting having Bibles and teaching church in school. So therefore, that already shows that they're not comparable. Because if they were, they wouldn't be teaching foreign languages in school.
They was teach foreign languages in school.
No, no,
They teach English in school.
listen to what I'm saying. If they were going to hinder you from speaking Spanish in this country, they couldn't teach it in school. But they hinder you from teaching religion in school, so we can't put those in the same basket.
Because the reason why they hinder the religion part of school is because they're saying this religion is better than this religion. Well. No, if I sit up here and I pledge allegiance, we all grew up pledging allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and things, all that good shit like that. Mm-hmm. But now I'm Muslim. I'm not putting my hand over my heart
and you have that
pledge allegiance. Yeah. Right. So that's the reason why they take out the whole Pledge of Allegiance in the American school system because one religion doesn't necessarily dominate word-wise. Now, population-wise, it's different. You're going to have more Christians in the world, but that don't mean they also have the last say-so either. Because by your own words, you just told me it's this way.
And so this is what I want to know. So, and I hear it so much from anybody who has the conversation that's on the opposite side. They always act like it's an imposition, or like Christians think that they're better than somebody else because they want to practice what this country was based off of. It has nothing to do with being better than. That's that abused victim syndrome that's being played on people. No one's coming to you and saying, I'm better than you because you're Muslim. What they're saying is, I'm an American. I want to practice my belief system openly like everybody else has the opportunity to do. And that's what this country is based off of. They're not demonizing nobody, but every time the conversation comes up, the opposite side always tries and act like, oh, you think
who the opposite side?
I'm talking about anybody with an argument against Christianity. You know what I'm saying? Whatever opposite side, because you have Muslims, you got Jews, you got different factions, atheists that always their argument against it is like someone's trying to impose something on you. No one's trying to impose anything on you, because in the freedom of it, if we're saying, all right, in our country, we say the Pledge of Allegiance at school, but we give you the freedom of will to not. So if you're sitting there and you don't want to say the Pledge of Allegiance, you have that right. We're not going to oppose it. We're not going to look at you any different. But these people over here want to say it, so we're not going to let them say it because you don't want to say it. It contradicts. It contradicts what they're trying to say that it is.
Because what it is that if you don't stand up, you don't pledge allegiance, they're going to crucify you.
Who said so?
Kaepernick said so. Kaepernick took that knee and said, I'm not standing for the national anthem, and I'm not standing because we need to get a hold of this prejudice, this racism in this country and things of that nature, and then went to a military person and said, what's the best thing I can do? He said, take a knee. He took a knee. He been blackballed from the NFL. But on the other hand, I guess I agree with you on this part then. Tebow, who was Christian, scored a touchdown and take a knee in the end zone. Because I'm Christian and I'm white, I take a knee in the end zone, I'm just fine. But if I'm deemed to be black and I take a knee during the national anthem, now I'm outcasted.
But see, those are two different monkeys, in the same damn cage. Because one is religious and one is social. So we can't get the same outcome because you just can't, they're not really compared.
But if I was in school and decided not to stand for the flag, these are the same people, but as kids, and some adults is gonna look at, hey, you don't belong in our school, you don't belong in our city, you don't stand up for our national anthem.
But we assume that, and to some degree I agree with you, but not to the greater degree, because we already know that all these kids are already going to school with each other and they already know everybody's ideology. It's not hidden. We're just not discussing it in the classroom, but it's shown in the world, it's shown on TV, it's shown in their cartoons, and it's shown in their society. So they already know what it is. So I don't think to that degree that it'll be that bad. And you're not imposing nothing on
That shit,
nobody.
they gonna start putting flags all around your damn house. Saying he's not American. This is Christian. He don't believe in our beliefs and shit. You know how hard it took these Muslims to be able to keep just to keep their shit, the females to keep their shit over their face for work. For work, they say this is my religious belief, and they tried to force this stuff off of them. The Muslim men, they tried to force the what they call it that they wear on their head.
But whatever it is.
Yeah, they tried to force that off of them. It gets to a point. That's
where they're talking about. That's what the Second Amendment is written for. It's for that kind of situation, not the situation.
The Second Amendment is to bear arms.
I mean, I got it wrong. I mean, but you know what I'm talking about. That's what it's the separation of church and state comes into. That's where it's applicable at.
But freedom of religion. That's the First Amendment.
Listen to what I'm saying. That's where it's applicable at, is because that's their religion. It don't hurt nobody. That they supposed to keep their head covered. So the state can't come in. That's what the intent of the law was written for. So the state can't come in and say, you got to take your hijab off because you're not hurting nobody. You're not going against nothing that the Christian belief system this country was based off of. It's nothing that goes against that. So you can't come in as the state and mandate that they got to undo that. That's unconstitutional. But to present God in school is not the intent of that constitution. It's not.
If I don't place my right hand on my over my heart and you don't like it becomes that. So to prevent that, we just ain't gonna do the shit at all. In a minute, your money your money ain't gonna be able to say under one God in a minute.
Because we're not gonna have physical money in a minute.
It don't matter if you have. You're always gonna have some type of physical money.
I don't know.
It's always gonna be something. It may not be as much, but it's always gonna be some type of physical money because you always gotta have cash. Always gotta have cash for something. Now, can that change somewhere down the line? I don't think it's very, very likely, but can it happen? Yeah, because I just think that you're always gonna have some type of form.
I mean, I agree with that, but what I'm saying is that we're not gonna have a dollar that says. Because I believe in the barter system, first and foremost. So when I understand that exchange of goods is a monetary system, so it doesn't necessarily have to be an American dollar, and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, 75 years ago.
You know what I'm saying? But we're going back to that world now that you see it. If you're in the business sector, and this is speaking from my own experience. So this is how I've made a living for I don't know how many years now. So, and I deal with a lot of Muslims, though. A lot of Muslims, they believe in the barter system, so do white people. They just don't tell niggas about it. So in lieu of money, we exchange services. So I need this done. You can get it done. Yeah, I'm going to pay you money. But I'm going to compensate you to make it what it's, so we're going to barter. That's part of why when people get caught up in like the mayor of Taylor just got caught up exchanging services because they're doing it illegally because the government want their money in because people do use it for bad power. But there's a barter system that goes on every day, and the power to be don't want us to understand that because they're not doing all things for dollar. They're doing it for favor. And when you do it for favor, that's a barter system. So we are already operating. We're not necessarily, because America's under a fiat currency, which is the money ain't even real. We look at that money, but the money not even real. So we understand that it's still a barter system because we put our trust into that currency. And so
eventually whatever currency we have is no longer going to say under one guy in the near future.
You're not the way we going because they move out of everything.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you throw it because you come in the country. This country is a melting pot. Everybody has their own way of life. Everybody has. I ain't gonna say everybody, but most people have come here for a better way of life, and they've all came here illegally. They've all come here illegally, except for one group of people. They've all come here illegally. Had it not been
like they came here illegally too, because they was trafficking.
No, but that ain't what we wanted.
I know.
That ain't what we
It was
wanted.
trafficking, damn it.
Yeah, that was trafficking. That ain't what we wanted. We was okay. We were okay at home. They had sunlight every single day. There wasn't no cold days. Motherfucker, I had abundance of food naturally, regardless of what it was. You know, the way of life was I mean I ain't gonna say it was great, but it was to our liking because this is what we created for ourselves. And then just to be uprooted because you took advantage of something that was sacred. Before you would have a war, you would lose that war, and they would become slaves, and they would only become slaves for so long.
Right.
And you would get and you would go back home to your village or wherever you come from. But you lost whatever it was that you lost or money that you exchanged and brung our people here and then made slaves out of us. We didn't come here for a better way of life. We was living good already. We was already living good. Motherfuckers walking around the plains butt naked. we butt naked.
Eating fresh fruit.
Yeah, whatever fruit you wanted. You know what I'm saying? It's an old saying, from the root to the fruit. because it goes from the root to the fruit, it goes into you, and then when you die, you go back into the ground and you become that root again. But now you only have roots like that no more because there ain't no seeds in the fruit. It's all man-made now. So there is no longer that in this country there is no longer from the root to the fruit. And then when you pass away, you go under and become that root. But in Africa, that's what we used everything. We used everything. You brought us here to live your life. Granted, we became Christians in that same moment as well. But we put a spin on it too. It ain't gonna be quiet in this church. We singing, we praising, we catching the Holy Ghost. We got our own we got our own Christian belief here in being Baptist, Southern Baptist or regular Baptist. You got one Baptist that play with snakes. I ain't fucking with no goddamn snakes. You got another Baptist that's gonna be loud as hell in the church and give you the Holy Spirit. That's just how I see it.
I mean, I understand it that from just my perspective, you know. I mean, I read a lot, I study a lot, I listen to a lot of people, but can't nobody tell me shit. You know, I'm a person that goes through life and I see what it is for myself. And if what somebody has told me or any information I've had is applicable and true, then that's the conclusion I have to come to, you know, just based on my own life. You get the different denominations. I don't think, I'm not, how I want to word this.
But you know, while you get your thought together, this is one thing I just popped in my mind. Is when Kyrie Irving was scrutinized for being racist.
For being anti-Semitic?
Yeah. But what they didn't say, who was anti what?
Semitic.
The motherfuckers that filmed
made the damn documentary.
Yeah. I made a comment on, not me, but Kyrie made a comment about the shit. Took him on, put him through the ringer. Mm-hmm. But nobody never put the person who created this, produced it, directed it, did the lights for it, any of that shit.
See, that's why
didn't put them under didn't put them under that.
Anybody who doesn't really understand the church and state go hand in hand are grossly misled, because when we understand that why they attack black people is because the majority of us are Jews and it's a religious issue. So when you study history and understand that what happened to the Jews, I'm not agreeing with all the dogma and ideologies that everybody's putting out, but I do understand where they get it from. And when you follow the trail, then that's what it is. So we understand that religion and church have always and always will go hand in hand.
You think the American church think that niggas are Jews?
Huh?
You think
No, I didn't say that. No.
What you saying?
This is what I'm saying. So they're never going to tell black people that they're Jews.
Who is they?
The power to be. This is the way I look at life, and let me articulate the way that I.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm speaking, I'm always speaking in a religious context. So anytime I'm talking, I'm not necessarily demifying a race or a people. I'm articulating the entity that's behind it, which is evil, Satan, Lucifer, whatever you want to call them. So that's always the context that I'm speaking in, because I don't demify people. I know that people are misled and people make bad decisions through having free will. That's what comes with having free will. So in me understanding that, when I'm speaking, I'm saying, all right, so white people might have done this, but the entity that behind it is the devil that pushes that. So it's not really the white people that are inherently bad. It's from the lack of knowledge and understanding and the manipulation that they've perpetrated the acts that they have. That's everybody in life. That's my perspective. And I see it to be true that when you take a religion, when you take God out of anything, you start seeing the going against nature. You start seeing things that are not natural, that have a negative effect on the person, on society. Why do you think they were against prohibition? We can't say that this country wasn't a Christian-based country when they're saying, oh no, you can't come here with that drunkard shit because God is against that. So they found it. So all those things back in those days shows and dictates that we understand that so we have, and that goes with any evil. This is just through my life understanding. So you saw the same thing happen with the Catholic Church. When the Catholic Church come in and said that we're the world church, we're the big church, we're running everything, we're God on earth. That's what happened through history. So, like I explained earlier, you had the Protestants that come in and said no. So even when Martin Luther came in with his theses and John Calvin and I can't give all the names right now, but all these great reformers came through, they all started their own church system. That's where you get the Lutherans and the Episcopalians and all of those people. They're under the Protestant umbrella, but they were all different people who did the same thing. Like we got Southern Baptists and Baptists and all here. They did the same thing when they left the Catholicism, where they said, well, I don't agree with Martin Luther's belief system on that. He's got that right, but he doesn't have this right. So we're going to start this. So from my understanding and study of religion is that if you look for God, you'll find him.
Right.
And it doesn't really matter how you go about finding him. And nobody can dictate how you find him. It's the search and finding him that you'll find, like, damn. And you'll be like, oh, they had this part right. And they had that part right. But everybody's so busy fighting that we can't search to see the truth to find them, because everybody fighting and demifying everybody and trying to make everybody else walk and come into the understanding the way they walked it. I would never tell nobody to come to the understanding of God the way I had to come through it. And I'm pretty sure it's a whole lot of people that would say the same thing, that they wouldn't, because it's not, that's why God gave you the freedom to mess up. That's why that's the thing about having freedom, is that you're going to mess up. And that's the only way you can come to God in true understanding, to know that he's righteous and that he's good, is by being a fuck up and seeing the mercy and the grace and paying attention, like, oh, then you can choose him. But if he's if he's being a dictator and say, you can't do this, you got to do that, you can't love God. You can't truly follow God. So he has to give us the ability to fuck up, to see that, whoa, all right, I follow you, because I see that what you're saying is right. And if I go outside of that, even nature, if didn't nobody believe in God, understand God's principle. Now, whether whoever formatted these books and this information, maybe it was just some motherfucker that was wise as hell, sitting around observing nature and understood that, all right, this has to be this way, or if this can't proceed, it can't continue. I don't know, but I know that it's, but if we stop bickering and fighting each other and start talking and finding the commonality and what we know to be right, not how we feel, because we want to keep doing what we're doing, when we just honest. Don't nobody want to accept that they're a fuck up. Everybody going to do whatever they got to do to not accept accountability. We have to be able to accept accountability that we're fallible people and we make mistakes all day, every day. And because somebody tells you that you're doing wrong and this is the way that things need to be done, is not them demifying you. It is not, no, that's just it. We can get to that point as a people to stop looking at all the negativity. It's just a distraction.
But I mean, but I think, you know, but to go back to before, is that everybody is allowed to practice what religion that they practice at their own in their own home. But when you get into a public place that's not your home, but is deemed to be public, such as a school building, then I mean, shit. All right, I understand we used to be able to do this, but we can't do this no more because when, like I said earlier, with the Constitution, the first Constitution, you know, that says freedom of religion. You know what I'm saying? And I'm allowed to practice whatever religion I want to practice. Yeah, you are allowed to practice whatever religion you want to practice. Okay, can't do this shit at school. All right, that's fine, but I can do this shit at home. If you want to pledge allegiance at home, then go ahead and pledge allegiance at home. You can't do it in the school system. Go ahead if you want to go ahead and pray to the east and pray to the west and the north and the south. Go ahead and make and do them prayers and bring your ass right on back.
Let me ask you this though. So when did they start saying the Pledge of Allegiance in school and having church and school together? And when did they stop it? Was it before, or did it continue long after they wrote that stuff?
Well, I mean, of course, it continued long after they did the
but all right, so
this is constitutional rights.
So that's what I'm asking. This is what I'm getting at. So if the people who framed that were actively doing, if church was in school and church and the Pledge of Allegiance was being said, then we must understand that that's not what they meant, because they were actively practicing it. So we understand that the way that we're trying to apply it now is not the way they applied it, because history shows us that they applied it contradictory to the way we're trying to apply it.
I mean, because at that time, it was 13 colonies, and everybody from 13 colonies.
That don't change this conversation.
And in them 13 colonies, that's all you had.
That strengthens my point.
But once other people started coming onto this country and practicing their religions, all right, well, I'm allowed to practice this. I'm gonna practice this. I'm gonna practice that. You practice this. You gonna practice that. And this is what we all gonna do. But now at the same time, I can't have a group over here with their hand over their chest doing the practice of religion. Pledge of Allegiance. I got you doing the Pledge of Allegiance over here. I got you praying over there. I got you doing this over here. I got you doing that over there. We got to get together, and then when you leave or wherever you go, whatever free time you have, go ahead and practice that. Go ahead and practice that there. You want to pledge allegiance at home? Pledge allegiance at home. You want to fly your flag at home? Fly your flag at home.
But history shows us that that's not valid, because when they wrote it, they were doing it in school, so it was not an issue for it to be being done, because they'd already stated that other people were coming here and that other people were going to be going to school. We understand that just by practical reason, so that their school system was doing that. So we understand that the removal of that structure and that foundation from that system is not applicable the way people trying to apply it today, because it was not implemented then.
Because they didn't know it was going on then. They put that in there as far as nobody being able to control me. The government, they put that in there because they say the government can no longer control me. I had, like you said earlier, that freedom of will. I had that freedom of will, and at this time, everybody that was coming here was from Europe. Nobody was here from the Middle East just yet. You had the Native Americans here that was here that they stripped from, but for the most part, you didn't have anybody from the Middle East. You didn't have. I mean, you had the black folks here from Africa, but it wasn't by our choice. You know what I'm saying? You had the Spanish, you had the Spaniards or whatever out in the West. from Texas on back towards California was all Mexico.
Right.
So all this here was all European. All this here was all European.
Right.
But shit, did I say everybody can have their own religion? Oh fuck, I fucked up with them words. Shit. Now I got everybody here that want to come here for a better way of life and practice their own religion here for their way of life. Shit, it don't look like a mistake, but it was a mistake because I ain't had this part. This part wasn't in you.
All this right.
Shit, it wasn't written for black folks to be free. It wasn't written for black folks to be citizens either. It was written for those that came here, yes, that came here to change their life because they put in there freedom of speech. So I can say what I want to say without being.
Understand this, all right? So when just based off of your statement, so do you think then when they came here to America, do you think they outnumbered the Indians here when they got here?
Initially? No, I don't think initially.
Right, and even after they framed and after everything they did, was a long time for the white population outpopulated the indigenous population here. So we have to understand that there was already a religious system here. They didn't have to bring foreigners over here for it to be a religious issue here. The religious issue was already here. You have Mexicans, you have Indians, and they already have their religious belief system. So we understand that those people were being incorporated into the society as well. So, and we understand that these
the
people,
Indians weren't.
They weren't, yes, because you have Indians to some degree, not to a large degree, but you've always had crossover. It's always happened.
They wasn't welcome.
It's always been crossover. So we understand that they were writing and saying that, look, Indians, Mexicans, y'all already here. We're not going to come tell y'all how to run y'all religious practices, but we believe in this. This is what we're structuring. It's based off this belief system. And we have it in our school system. We have it in our government because church was going on in the state capitol right after he's writing these letters talking about so-called church and state. So how can
before it was church and state, church ran everything. Before it was church and state, church ran everything.
This is what I'm saying. This is documented. So Thomas Jefferson, after he wrote the Danbury letter back to the Baptists with their concerns about the government imposing their will on their freedom of expression of religion, after he pens this letter, same day, this man who everybody says he was separating church and state, church was held in the state capitol.
Because the church ran things.
No, but listen, but he's talking about the separation of church and state. So he's cool. So that was not his intent. Saying that the church, what he was saying was, look, man, we believe in Christ here, and we're Christian, and we function this way. But we're not gonna allow anybody to come and say that you have to because y'all Christian too, because they were Baptists, and Baptists fall under the Protestant umbrella. But because what you were articulating earlier, that they go about their practices different, some might yell, like you were saying. So because the way that they believe in their belief system, they say, well, you might come and do this. You might force to believe the way that they say, no, we're not going to do that. We believe this. And as a matter of fact, I'm about to go to church as soon as I'm done writing this letter. Do you, boo? And that's what it was. We making it out to be something that it's not.
But at this time, church ran the country. This is before the Victorian ages. Church ran the if you violated any church rules, you were substance to die. That's where witches come from. If you had any type of mental problems, if you were deemed to be at one point, if you was in today's age, if you was deemed to be mentally challenged, or as they would say, retarded, you were considered to be like a witch. And because religion ran the country at one point, they was allowed to kill you.
I mean,
they were like the church was allowed to kill you and put you, and just kill you or whatever. But at some point during the Victorian ages or whatever, they got away from the churches having the power to the people I guess having the power, and then that's how they came up to be church separated from
Now,
state.
you remember what I told you earlier? Who did I tell you is the most powerful country in the world?
Who was that?
The Vatican. The Vatican is the most powerful country, the most powerful entity on earth is the Vatican. And do you know why it's the most powerful entity on earth?
Why is that?
Because it's ran by the church.
Yeah, and I know it's ran by the church.
That's why it's the most powerful entity on earth, because it's ran by the church. So we have to go back and look at history. We have to go look at the Roman Empire under Constantine, and we have to go and look at what was transpiring. So because it was so much turmoil in the empire, and because Constantine seeked to have total global, control. Well, we're not choosing this little world, but when we say global, we meant control over everybody, control everything. So because it was a division in religious entities, because you had a lot of paganism and you had Christianity, Catholicism, and those things coming, so they were battling within the governmental system. So what does Constantine do? Constantine goes to the Catholic Church, and he brings them in together. And he says, all right, so what can we do? So he had to mingle church and state in order to bring unity that was his thought process. And in order to advance his empire. And I think, don't quote me, but to my estimation, it worked for a little bit. But this is like anything else there's always so many variables. But we have to understand that church is always in state. We're misleading ourselves to believe that it is. Just because they're telling you it's not.
But the church can't make the church itself cannot make the rules and the laws of the state.
No.
Now, if it just so happened to be that district attorney is Christian, but then but then let's just say one of your federal judges or one of your state judges is Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it separates state from religion, because you can't base your decision off of your religion. You can't base your decision based off your religion.
So let me ask you this to make it, I don't know, I try to articulate it in multiple ways. So make this make sense to me. If we say that we separate in church and state, right? If that's what we believe, is that church has nothing to do with the state. All right. So if a guy believes in no abortion because that's his religious belief. So every time he goes in to vote, he's going to vote off his religious belief system against abortion. So, and that's what happens. So we're saying that religion doesn't happen in state when it does, because these people are making their decisions based off religion, off their belief system. So if we believe that religion is not in the state, we're deceiving ourselves. These people are making their decisions. That's why you see Trump. I want to get all these Republicans lined up, because he knows their belief system is going to line up with his belief system. So we absolutely know that religion is in politics. It's just I'm pulling a wool over our eyes, so we miss it.
It is in the politics, but it's not necessarily
imposed.
It's not the laws aren't okay. Only Christians, only Muslims, only Jewish, only whatever. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna impose our religion, and if you don't get with it, you're gonna be held accountable. Nah, you can practice whatever religion you want to practice. You can do whatever it is that you want to do, but you still cannot break the laws of the state. Now, I can't control. I mean, I can control. I can't necessarily control who the governor's going to be. I can control that based off of whatever ties we have. I can't control who's going to be the district attorney. I can control that based off of the ties that I have. But now whoever has these ties, now this person over here may be Christian, and this person over here may be Muslim. And somewhere when we make this law, we got to come to common ground. Or if both of us are Christian, all right, they go law right here. You Christian, I'm Christian, we got something in common here. That's a law. But for the most part, you got it separated, and at the same time, you may have it together. But there's checks and balances in there with that because shit, I can't be Muslim and be a Muslim congressperson and then be like, this is what it's gonna be. No, there's some checks and balances there. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody's not the same religion. You know what I'm saying? So the creative minds they come together now versus yesteryear during Jefferson's time. When it was Jefferson's time and all them, yeah, majority of all them were Christian. Yeah, shit, the only people that can have any power had to be white. But not anybody had that power.
Now, see, I agree with you, but you confirming what I'm saying.
I ain't saying I ain't.
But it is that this country has a Christian fundamental background, and that the Constitution and our Bill of Rights were framed under that mindset.
It was.
So for us to get here, we're applying it differently because it's written, a lot of it open to interpretation to different minds, contingent on the times, like what you're saying, through the progression of time. But I believe that we've misinterpreted it and misconstrued it so immensely that it's corrupting itself, that it's destroying, because the liberty that it gives is the checks and balance system is working against them, is going against what their fundamental belief system and trying to be fair.
Well, I mean, it did go against. It went against. I mean, today it's going against what they wanted to be, but then it fit them just great.
Right.
Because it was only 13 colonies, which they just say for shits and giggles, it was only 10,000 people in this country. Whereas the country started expanding, and you start bringing your own beliefs in here and your own religions in here. Now all these different religions intertwine with each other. Now we ain't just intertwine with each other. Now we at some point we run for office with each other. Now these rules and these laws come together, but that's where the checks and balances. That's where the checks and balances come in at. It ain't just all white people no more. It ain't just half white people and half black people no more. It's you got white people, you got Hispanic people, you got black people, you have
Asians,
you have everybody in this whole pot that's now coming together to make up these rules, to make up these laws, and one religion doesn't necessarily trump one over the other, but it does. And I'm only gonna say it does because of the stigma of the country. The stigma of the country is a country for white people and white people only. But
white Protestants.
But the truth of the matter is, you got everybody in this country now, and everybody in this country has a say so in the laws that's being made, the laws that's being done. If I go on Southfield right now, because of perception, you better do 55 until you get to Detroit. Ain't gonna be not one police officer on Southfield from here to Detroit, but your ass gonna drive 55 because you know perception of it.
Right.
Because you know, damn, all right, once I get in Detroit, I can do 75 now. But before I get there, I better do 55 because of perception from the past. It ain't like that too much anymore. Just like the world ain't the way it was too much like it was anymore back then either.
This is my that word to that. Does progression in time dictate a change the truth, or does progression in time and new generation change the fundamental building blocks of existence? So when we saying that, so we can say that. So if in 30 years from now, because of the way we're heading, and it's more about feelings, so we can start saying, oh, well, I feel like a murderer today, or I feel like this today, and it can be acceptable. We can say that a religious cult, if they're in the privacy of their home, they can sacrifice kids in their home, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Until they get caught.
No, it is something wrong without getting caught, because that's hiding it don't make it right.
No, it don't make it right.
You know, so we can't go and use that justification or that understanding of the framing of what they were saying, because that was not their intent. Because if you're doing it in your home, No one knows. So their
Mhm.
thing was open practice of it, that your open practice of it will not be demonified and you will not be harmed. So it wasn't a thing about you being in your home. So, and we have to understand that was not the situation.
We had a technical difficulty there, had a problem with the technology and whatnot. So we're gonna continue this podcast from where we left off, talking about religion. I'm not no big religion type of person. I'm not real big into religion. I ain't gonna lie and say I know everything about every scripture. I barely know anything about one scripture. I ain't gonna lie and say I know all this shit that I don't know, but I do know common sense. I do know some stuff that I have read, and I do know some things that I have learned, and therefore I ain't no expert at the shit, but I do know, a little something, something, and we're just gonna continue this from where we left off, with the script, talking about religion and state. I'm still a firm believer that, you know, um, state has to be separated from religion in order to show no bias. Does the bias still happen? Yeah, the bias still happens. Shit, if you see me and I'm with another officer, I'm gonna show some bias with that officer. You know what I'm saying? If you see me with some real close friends of mine that I've grown grown up with my whole life, I mean, yeah, I'm gonna show some bias. You know what I'm saying? But I think that's only human. If you know somebody well compared to somebody you don't know at all, you're gonna show some type of bias. And if y'all just so happen to be in the same religious class, that being Catholic, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, whatever it may be, you're gonna show some type of, favoritism to them. You're gonna show some type of bias to them. You know what I'm saying? Even though in a perfect world you wouldn't, but it happens that way in this world. You can't help but do it. I mean, shit. If I see you and walking down the street and I see a motherfucker who I don't know from a can of paint, because I know how you, I'm gonna stop. I may not stop for this motherfucker over here. I don't know what he gonna do. And based off of his description, he don't look too friendly. But he could be the friendliest motherfucker in the world. I don't know that, and I ain't willing to take that risk. And that's what the bias in religion and in state is always going to be a bias. It's always in schools. It's going to be a bias. Alumni, that's a bias. You know what I'm saying? Because if I went to college and I pledged the same fraternity, and then next thing you know, we go in for a job together. We both got the same accolades, the same everything, but you wasn't a part of this fraternity. I am. Shit, bias, my way, I win, you lose. You know what I'm saying? And that's just the way this country was set up. But at the same time, it's up for everybody to interpret. And then at the same time with that interpret, now it's up to judges and attorneys to articulate it the best way possible that you want to say it. Sometimes you're going to win, sometimes you're going to lose. You know what I'm saying? That's the reason why we had a civil rights movement. And that civil rights movement also delivered other, I'm gonna say, delivered other babies per se, as far as civil rights. Because when people think of civil rights, they only think of black people. But what the civil rights really did was help move along anybody that was in the same sex. Anybody that looked different.
Women's suffrage.
Yeah, anybody that was a woman. You know what I'm saying? Civil rights just didn't say black people. Civil rights said everybody has the right to be to live in this country civil.
But it was one of the vehicles they used to promote that, though.
Yeah, it just so happened we was that vehicle to use because we weren't allowed to vote at one time. We wouldn't allowed to have interracial marriages at one time. I mean, even at one time, on top of that, we weren't even allowed to get married to each other. To each other's own rights. He couldn't even get married, couldn't even read, couldn't even write, couldn't even go to the same school as that of your white counterpart. So when people think of civil rights, they always think of just black people this, black people that. But the civil rights opened it up for any foreign people that come into this country, any people that love the same race that's in this country, people that think differently is in the, is allowed for that in this country. The people in South Carolina that picketed with tiki fire torches, you couldn't do shit about that because that's their right.
That goes to like concurring with what you were saying earlier with the passage of time. And it's like I say, all things are applicable, but all things not applicable at all times. So I do understand that in the maturation process of life, that things are going to change. So we everybody knows that the Constitution in America was not in the belief that all men were really equal, because we wouldn't have had a civil rights movement. We wouldn't have those things. But even them being a Christian-based belief people, they still did some very bad things.
Well, yeah.
So through history, like you're saying, through history, you have different thinkers to come and say, whoa, this shit ain't copacetic. Then we have to change that. So yeah, you start changing things.
Oh shit! You know what? You gotta start over.
Hey.
You didn't turn your mic on in.
Yours probably picked it up though.
No, I never turned it on.
Oh.
There's gonna be a lot of editing.
It happens.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of editing and shit. But I want to get, we had some technical difficulties, and we're gonna get this going back because, like I said, we had some technical difficulties. So we're just gonna continue this, from where we left off at, and from where we left off at was, church and state. You know what I'm saying? Church, on paper, it says church and state is separate. In reality, church and state can be the same based off of who you know and who may be in charge. If it's two Christians that's in charge, or two Muslims that's in charge, or two Jewish people that's in charge, whatever it may be, two black people that's in charge. All right, well, I'm influenced to change some laws based off of what we want. And that's what's going to happen. And in this country, you got a lot of people that's Christians or Catholics that are friends, that are family members, that will, push something along, a little faster than normal. You know what I'm saying? Because we don't live in a perfect world. We live in a world of bias. We live in a world of prejudice. We live in a world of racism. We live in a world of difference.
Self-gratification and self-idolization. We live in a society that's prone to imperfection. But that's part of the beauty of life, is in the imperfection. But it's the figuring out how to fix it and not perpetuating. When you see it, if you keep looking in the mirror and it's fogged over, you clean the mirror. You don't keep trying to see your reflection in it. If you can't see out your front windows, you defrost it. So it's in the recognizing the problem and then addressing it. You don't keep going blindly. So when you see it, yes, you have to address it in whichever way it comes. And like we were told, you got to address it the first time, because if you allow it to keep going, if you don't address it the first time, it's going to progressively get worse. And not saying that what has transpired in America, I'm not demifying it or glorifying it. But what I'm saying is, when you allow the situation to be as ambiguous as it is, now you continue to dilute the original thing. So whether it's to the good or the bad, I'm not going to make that. I'm not going to say either way. But what I do understand is that when you don't have strict, clear, precise articulation of what you're trying to do, you end up where we're at in America now.
Well, it was precise for it then,
I guess, but it wasn't, because now that we have everybody interpreting the difference.
Because you have a new influx of people that's not in this country, that wasn't in this country when it was first written. You had, like I said earlier, you had 10,000 people in this country, and a handful of those were those that went into writing the Constitution, getting the courts the way they want to get the courts. But now you have over 1 billion people in this country. So now you have over 1 billion people in this country that has their own interpretation, and then you have only so many people that represent these billions of people to interpret it for those billions of people. And therefore, then now you have the laws that come along with it. You have that Christian, you have that Catholic individual, you have that Muslim, you have that Jewish individual, you have foreign people that come into this country and they have babies too. You have all these people that now have influence on the interpretation of what this Constitution is meant to be said.
That's why I'm in favor of religion being taught in school and school curriculums. I'm in favor of not putting one religion over the other. I'm in favor of a religious study class because we are a melting pot and we intermingle with each other.
In what kind of school?
In public schools. I'm in favor of, and I'm not saying from just a Christian theological standpoint, I'm saying a historical study of all religions. That way we don't have to make it, because when everything is taboo and ain't nobody talking about it, it make it easy to demify things. But if we put it all on the table, acclimate everybody to the information and acceptance, and we set it down and we say, all right, so this is, I'll try to explain the way I've been formulating it, because I've been having this conversation and I was articulating it to Dave that I didn't know how to really go about it. First I was thinking maybe as extracurricular class, but then that really negates the whole purpose of it. If we're trying to get genuine unity, in my assumption, if we're trying to get genuine unity, and we have this situation going on in America where there's diverse religions, so we're not trying to say that one religion is better than the other, but we want everybody to have the information. So we do it in a historical context. Not while we're saying that your religion is better than my religion, or this and that. What we do is we take it from the history, the actual factual, how it is transpired in history, how it applies to each religion, and have a study on that. Well, we're not saying we're trying to make you be this, we're trying to make you be that. But what we're doing is we're showing you how religion has shaped this world in a historical context from all viewpoints, and how it is applied into the government, into the social structure, into the economical structure, how that it dictates everything that has ever transpired in any governmental system. So I think the only way that we can do it, and the best way to do that to alleviate the problem that we're having in America, is that we have to sit down and we have to talk about it, and we have to educate the masses about it in unity, to where it ain't
But is that too much for high school?
Huh?
Is that too much for high school?
So to me, like,
because you only got so much time for these shit. You already had a hard enough time with Black History Month. Now you trying to add in every religion too?
Look, don't they talk about Hitler? Don't they talk about Socrates? Don't they talk about Plato? Don't they talk
in high school?
Man, I'm talking about on every level you start.
Not college. Yeah, let's do this in college, because I can dictate. I can.
But by college, this is the problem with that. That I see as the problem with that, right? So, as somebody who understands that the formative years are already before you reach high school and before you get to junior high, that your fundamental belief system is already pretty much formed. So, to put that in, you've already got something that you gotta fight against, and you have been bombarded by outside influences from the masses, from every religion, from everything, everybody's vantage point, where there's not saying, all right, we're not going to say that you're the best. What we're going to do is say, all right, so this system, and it ain't got to be in detail, but what it does is it opens up to where you can see, so you don't have to question it, you don't have to listen, you can say, all right, so this is what I know transpired. So Muslims believe this, and this is why they believe that, and this is how it worked for their economy, and this is where it throughout history. So when we talk about Constantine, or we talk about science, or we talk about these different things, well, what was their religious belief system? And that's what ultimately brought them to this.
Because when you start doing religion in schools, and then, I mean, that's about as bad. I mean, I ain't gonna say bad, but that's about that's about as bad as when they try to put in sex ed in school. That hey, my child ain't about to listen to y'all talk about no sex, and then my child ain't this religion, and we ain't gonna, and he ain't coming to school or she ain't coming to school on these days that y'all talking about Catholic study or Christian study, and then therefore you still gonna be missing out on the shit because now the parents still have something to say about what their kids are gonna learn versus being in college and we got this study, we got this study, you can have this study. Okay, now I got free choice to go to any one of these classes and learn a little bit more about this religion. But in public school, nah, I don't have that freedom because I don't have the right to choose if I want to or not. If my parents say I can't.
So this is my to that. All right. So we teach history in school, whether it be Black history to a very minimal scale, but we teach world history, and that starts before college. We have social studies class. So all these things are all religion is in all of these things. We just don't never discuss them. So we really never really truly understand. We only understand one minute aspect of what's transpiring. So we don't really know what really happened till we find out that, oh, why did they make this decision? They made this decision based off of this. Then you get to understand what's truly happened in a historical context. So I'm not saying going in and preaching to kids. You're not having church service in school. I'm not.
No, I ain't saying you have. I ain't saying you have church service in school, but at the same time, when you're doing as they call it American history and social studies, okay, it's quick brief and we go on to the next. It's quick brief and we go on to the next. It's quick brief and we go on to the next. And at the same time, you still don't get a grasp of the whole history because those that write it, write it. You know what I'm saying? But you start throwing religion in there because you start throwing religion in there. Shit, I don't want you having, I don't want you scoping my child, and molding my child into what you want my child, even if it's a lie. Even if it's a lie, I'm not molding your child. I'm just letting your child know what this religion is about. They don't need to know all that shit. All they need to know is that what's his name discovered America. Christopher Columbus discovered America, and that's a lie. But we're gonna keep telling you that Christopher Columbus discovered America. Ain't no harm in that. Hey, I'm gonna keep telling you that the Native Americans came over here and they loved to teach the Pilgrims how to have Thanksgiving. May not be all the truth in that. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna sit up here and tell you that that the Pilgrims came here on the Mayflower and everything was copacetic. We're gonna tell you, you know what I'm saying? They ain't gonna. It's just fly and go, fly and go. Religion. You mean tell me you want me? Nah, my children can't talk about no damn religion. Nah, they ain't about to learn about no damn religion. Nah, you ain't about to shape my kids. And people have that mindset when you talk about religion, I'm trying to shape you. You know what I'm saying? But it may not that may not always be the case. Now I may be telling you some stuff to let you know you can be whatever religion you want to be. But when you're a child, you don't have that say so. You didn't have that say so.
Yes, I did.
Your parents said, "This is what you learn in this part of the Bible. You're gonna do this. You're gonna do that. We're gonna take it how you want to, but you're gonna learn it today."
No, I was articulating this, old boy, that my daddy never just stood up and said, "You're a Jew and you got to do this." My daddy.
No.
So my daddy never. What he did is he said, "This is the information." My dad didn't say don't read no Quran. My dad didn't say don't read the Tanakh. My dad didn't say don't read the Torah. My dad didn't say read. No, he didn't say not to.
But he said read this.
Well, that's the way he introduced it.
Yeah.
But it was an introduction.
Yeah.
But my dad never said that we had to necessarily choose none because he understands that it's your choice. But he understood this, that the only way that you make that choice is by being introduced to you.
So did he put 10 different Bibles in your face and say, pick the one you want to read. You want to read the Quran? You want to read the Holy Bible?
No,
You want to read the First Amendment or the old?
He never made us read, not one. My daddy never made us sit down and read no Bible. Never once. My daddy never said to me, you got to read the Holy Bible. He never, them words never came out of his mouth. I would see my daddy reading the Bible and different religious material, but he never told us that. My daddy would come give us the information from his understanding. So that's what he would do. And then he would tell us, you got to learn for yourself. So you have to be introduced to the information to learn. So in order to do that and to come to the right conclusion, in my perception, in order to do that, to come to the right conclusion, you have to have all the information. And if you don't have all the information, then you're making an ill-formed conclusion. And that's just what it necessitates. You can't make an informed conclusion with a quarter of the information. So that's what's transpiring in society, because for whatever reason, it's inert people. But that's what's happening. People are being given a quarter of the information, if even that, and trying to form a conclusion from it. And quite naturally, the conclusion they're coming to is in error because they don't have all the information. You can't get 10, and all you got is a 2 over here and a 5 over here. You're only gonna get 7 every time. But they're not telling you, man, we got another 3 over here, but we don't want to discuss it so you can understand that it's 10. That's what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So to alleviate that, because people always want to feel like you're imposing religion, you're imposing this. No, if we're saying that this is a free country, and in order to have freedom, in order to truly be free, instead of parents making a decision for their children, because then your children aren't free, then you're making the decision for them. But when a child can make his own decision if you give them the information, but you're hindering your child and imposing the way we feel on them by saying, no, because I believe this, I'm not going to allow you the right. I'm not going to give you the right or the choice to make the decision for yourself. You're going to do what I say. That's what parents are doing.
Ain't that what parents been doing since the beginning of time?
Is that freedom of choice?
I mean, as a child, as a child, I don't know necessarily if you have that freedom of choice per se. Because if that's the case, hey, on your first day of life here, you on your own, choose as you wish. Nah, that child has to be raised, molded, and in the process of being raised and molded, that child is going to be taught by the way of that parent or those parents or whatever person is guiding that individual. Because shit, all children, regardless of who you are, me, you, anybody else, at one time, get all our knowledge from our parents.
Or should have.
At one time. Whoever it was, a parent, a guardian, whoever it was, at one time, or even if it was just life, at one time, because you couldn't think for yourself. You didn't. I mean, you knew right from wrong, but you didn't know right from wrong adult style, and you had to be taught. And in the process of being taught, just like anybody that, as you say, is prejudiced. You got kids that's in the clearing wearing motherfucking sheets. Them kids don't know what that shit mean.
So answer me this, going to what you're saying, right? So kids go to school, they learn math, they learn science, they learn all these things, right? What if your mom and daddy don't know how to do math?
Shit, half of us didn't.
No, listen to what I'm saying. Right, that's what I'm getting to. So what if your parents can't do math, so they can't teach you math, but you go to school to learn math, and then you find out you like math when your whole parents been telling you the whole time, I can't do math, I can't read, it's okay. And that's what they impose because that's what you see. But is that actual and factual? No. You go to school and you learn math. Same thing. It's just that people don't want to accept it that way. Exact same thing.
I mean, but if your parents don't know math, and you come to school every day, all right, well, yeah, your math is wrong. What happened? Well, I mean, my mama told me it was right. I thought it was right. Because you going off of this adult. If you got somebody who knows how to do math and is doing math, and you get everything right now, well, how you get your math right? My mama helped me all the time. She good at math. I still gotta be guided by somebody.
That's why the whole point why religious studies in school, so you can be guided by somebody, because everybody doesn't have it.
But in religion, all religion is different.
But it don't have to be what I'm saying. Everybody want to take it just because you take a religious study class don't mean you gonna be religious. You take math classes, but everybody not an accountant. So I don't know why people keep trying to apply it that way. To have the information does not mean that that's what you're gonna do. All it is giving you information so you can make a decision.
It's giving you information to make a decision, but at the same time, this is a child under their parents' rule. And my child ain't my
So tell me this, all right? So since we're gonna say that, right?
Math is universal.
So tell me this, right? So a kid is under their parents' rule, right? That's what you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what everybody wants to stand on, right? Stop sending your damn kid to school and see what happened to your ass. If what you do at home actually controls, the school has more control than the parent does. So that's not true.
So how you have kids that's homeschooled then?
That's because that's a totally different thing. If your child is enrolled in the public school system and his ass is not at school or her ass is not at school, your ass as a parent is in trouble. So that what you're saying does not apply. People don't really look at what's really transpiring. The school district has more control over your household than the parent does. That's just what it is. We like to think that we have control, but you fuck around and don't. You fuck around and send your kid to school with a bruise on them. You fuck around and don't send your kids to school. You fuck around and send your kids to school and they ain't and see what happened to your ass. Then you find out that you really not the control mechanism you think that you are. That the school system and the state has more control than the parent has. And we need to understand that. So we really missing out. The state is the one that's in control. No matter we say religion, no none of that shit. It's a whole bunch of bullshit. Ain't nobody got no control. The state run they run everything. The government runs and it's dictated by that. Because if it wasn't, they couldn't tell you, oh, your child got to be to school. We gonna teach them what we want to as a school district, and we're gonna mandate that you send your child to school, and if you don't, then there's a consequence to pay. So that negates any argument against it. It just does. It's inherent, and just that action shows that what people believe is not true.
What do they believe?
They believe that the parent got the control when the parent really doesn't have the control in our society. They should, but they truly.
Yeah. So we're gonna get ready to wrap this up. I think it's really been a deep conversation, on some topics that a lot of people don't necessarily want to touch on because it's extremely sensitive, you know what I'm saying? And everybody has their own viewpoints on something like religion and state.
There's nothing wrong with that, though.
No, there's nothing wrong with it. Everybody should be able to talk about and discuss, what it is that's on their mind without being, necessarily judged,
Little and demonized.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I think that I think that we touched on, quite a bit of things when it comes to dealing with the state and dealing with religion and vice versa, dealing with religion and then dealing with state, because you got some people that's gonna believe the highest power is God and God has the last word. Then you have some people that say, hey, it's the state. You know what I'm saying? You go to court, the judge, you got a court, you got a judge, you have a jury, you may have a trial, you go to court, you may cop a plea. You know what I'm saying? And some people like, hey, the state does this. Some people gonna, like I said before, some people gonna say, well, God has the last word, it's gonna be his judgment. And I believe, both sides are true. Because, all right, I broke a law. Now, I pay whatever consequence that comes with that. Now, on the other hand, I die, shit, I got an answer to this shit. You know what I'm saying? I got an answer to this. You know what I'm saying? Some people, I believe that I'm going to have to, when it comes to that judgment day, I'm going to have to, plead my case, hella strong because I don't know if I'm going down or going up.
And your ass can't swim, so you can't be no Lake of Fire.
I can't be no Lake of Fire. So the only thing I can hope and pray for is that if I ain't supposed to be up there, just let me be there for 30 minutes before they find out. That's all I want. Give me 30 minutes before they find out and then come get me. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to go straight down there. Just give me my 30 minutes real quick and you ask where I'm at. Oh, that motherfucker up there, he ain't supposed to be up there. We gonna get his ass. And well, come get me. I got 30 minutes up here now. And in 30 minutes, you may even forget I'm up there. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, that just goes to show you, everybody don't live a perfect life.
Ain't nobody gonna do it.
No, nobody's gonna do it. You know what I'm saying? And even those that I believe that may be kissing ass to get there, to get to your heavenly Father, and they kissing ass to get there, they ain't going either.
A lot of people call it kissing ass.
It ain't looking good for some of them either.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because you're gonna have some people down here, you gonna have some people here that may be living in your eyes the worst life and may go to their heavenly Father, for whatever reason. So I mean, we just don't know till we get there. You know what I'm saying? So that judgment day is the last judgment day that you will have. So whatever you've done in your life that may have been good or you thought was good, it wasn't. Whatever you were doing that was wrong, you thought was wrong, but really wasn't. It's shit. You're gonna have your judgment day.
I don't know. I believe this wholeheartedly that God said love covers a multitude of sins.
Mm-hmm.
And that God is the judger of the heart. So when we do things out of love, when you show love, when you're able to have the capacity for love, you can get by a lot of things. God might say, all right, you did this, but in love, you were able to do this. And you was able to grow this out of love. So I see it as we can all come together in love and respect for each other. We can have these discussions. You can feel the way you feel. But as long as in love that we respecting each other and we not harming each other, then all is well.
Yeah.
All is well. And we got to be able to get to the place where it can be that we can not agree and I can still love you to death. As long as you're not doing just some heinous shit. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But if you operating in love and you showing love, if you're a Muslim, a Jew, as much as I hate to say it, a Satanist, I hate to say it, I don't see how a Satanist can operate in that magnitude of love. But if they can in love, I don't know.
I mean, shit, we all gonna have that judgment day. It ain't enough for me to figure it out now.
Right?
It ain't for none of us to figure it out now. People try to figure it out now, but you're not gonna figure that shit out till you get there.
That's why I just say, just operate in love. No matter what you're doing, because we all gonna fuck up. We all got our own personal opinions, but in everybody having a God-given right, the compassion, love, and understanding is the way to getting along.
Yeah. I mean, that is the way of getting along. And on that note, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna go ahead and end the podcast, and I appreciate all those that have subscribed, all those that have liked, and those that haven't liked and subscribed yet. Go ahead and like it and subscribe to it. But I think this was a podcast that touched on quite a bit. At least when it comes to religion wise and state wise and things like that.
I would love to see the comments. I would love people to comment on it, Mo, and have a continued conversation about it.
I mean, yeah. I would love to see people comment on it and have that conversation about it.
Though,
Yeah, but that is it's a touchy subject, and it's hard for
Yeah.
people. It's hard for people to have that discussion without getting mad at some goddamn body.
You can get mad, but still be respectful. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, mad and respectful go two different.
no, you can be mad. You can. God says this: be angry and sin not. So you can be angry, but you ain't got to be hateful and hurt. You know, just do it in love.
No, you can do it in love, but shit, you got more people that's gonna do it the opposite way.
I'm just, but you can ask though.
Yeah, you can ask.
Conducted in that manner to show if that's what people saying they want, then you have to show that.
Yeah,
You just can't say that that's what you want, you believe in, and you expect it, then you not show it.
right.
So if that's what you say you want, then do it in love and respectfully, and walk it like you talk it. And you know, don't just tell me that you believe in the good, you believe in all this, and then you tell a motherfucker to suck dick and kiss ass and all of that. Then you're not operating in love, and you contradicting what you call yourself. I don't.
Yeah, so like I said, we're gonna go ahead. So everybody like, subscribe, comment, and thank y'all for tuning in for another podcast of Off the